Man, listen. If it's a few things that the Scream franchise is going to do, it's going to raise eyebrows, it's going to turn heads, it's going to raise question marks. But nonetheless, I feel like over the course of 6 movies, with the seventh actively in development, the main thing that the Scream franchise is going to do that it's always done is going to put asses in seats. This is one of those cases where I'm I'm everything that I just described. I'm everything. I'm eyebrows raised. I'm question marks. I'm turning my head. I'm excited, and I will be seated. I will, man. But it's a lot of shit going on with this Scream franchise, and I don't have any notes. This is one of those like breaking news type of things where I'm just like, okay, I got my points together in my head that I want to make, and I could have did this last night, but I was dead tired. I was just super exhausted, and I'm like, nah, this is an episode that deserves my full attention, and it deserves I have to give y'all my best when trying to explain how I feel about all of this news, trying to make sense of everything. But the Scream franchise, if we can go back to the basics, back to the beginning really quickly, man. I always say this in regards to the first movie, as far back as I can remember, man. I've been a horror movie buff, and I remember my big cousin. I think he was working at like Power 99 or something at the time, man, and he took all of us little cousins, which he probably shouldn't have done, but he was that type of big cousin. He was the cool big cousin. Yo, he works for the radio station, man. Shout out Cuzzo Tyson, man. But remember, he got tickets. He took all the little cousins. He took his girlfriend. It's his wife now, but he took his girlfriend at the time too. But he took all the little cousins to see Scream in the theater, man. It was like some type of advanced screening before the movie actually came out, and it's one of the best theater experiences I can remember. And I remember they were selling like the Jiffy Pop things like in the actual theater. They were selling that shit before the movie started. The Jiffy Pop shit that Drew Barrymore is using in the beginning of the film. They were selling those. All the reactions, man, all the vibes, like it was laughs, it was screams, it was hoots, it was hollers. I remember everybody thought that Sidney's dad was the killer, man. And I remember it was this one lady that was sitting in the row in front of us, and when Ghostface tapped on the window with the knife and showed Sidney the keys when she was trying to escape Stu Macher's house. We'll mention Stu Macher again in a second, man. But I remember it was a lady sitting in front of us, and she was like, "Yo, just say daddy, just say daddy." Everybody thought that Sid's dad was the killer, and when everybody went back and forth, they thought Billy was the killer, they thought Randy was the killer. And some people even thought Tatum was the killer at one point in time. But that just wasn't. I mean, I was about to say it wasn't believable, but if you can believe that Amber was the killer at some point in Scream 5, then anything is fucking possible physically in these movies, man. We can defy physics and actual logic if that's the case, man. But like that first movie is near and dear, man. I always talk about the fact that Popcorn owes a lot to, or Scream owes a lot to the movie Popcorn, a slasher movie from the early '90s. And I feel like if when I go back and watch Student Bodies and Return to Horror High, I feel like those types of slasher comedies, Scream definitely was inspired by stuff like that. Who knows, man? Only the late great Wes Craven knows, and Kevin Williamson, who's directing this in development Scream sequel, man. But the first one, it's a classic. I love how it just refreshed and revitalized the slasher genre. Scream 2, great opening. I remember being really shocked and surprised that Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett got killed in the beginning. I'm like, wow, you got two black people getting killed. I felt some type of way about that shit as a kid, man. But then we had Elise Neal and Dwayne Martin as the other black characters. I remember them killing off Randy. Everybody had the same reaction, and the series has not been the same without him. I don't give a fuck what flashbacks or what videotapes you show him on. Jamie Kennedy was very essential to the franchise, man. So to kill him off in part two, I think that was Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven's way, if I'm not mistaken, of saying like nobody's safe. We don't want y'all. We having fun here, but we don't want y'all to get comfortable, man. And I think one of my biggest problems with Scream 2, it's not as good as the first one. I've learned to appreciate it more as time goes on, but I knew even as a kid back in what '97 when this shit came out, I knew Mickey was one of the killers, if not the killer, because I'm like, where's this guy that's walking around with the camcorder, man? This cool guy. Like I wasn't familiar with Tim Oliphant prior to that, but I was like, this is a cool character, man. But where's he at? He's been gone for almost the entire second act of the movie, and the third act of the movie, he's a no-show. So when he took the mask off at the end, I'm like, yeah, I figured he was one of them. Roman, we'll talk about Roman in a little bit too, man. But Roman as the killer in Scream 3, I first and foremost, I love Scream 3. I go back and forth with Scream 3 and Scream 6 as the best sequels. I don't give a damn. I will die on that hill. But Scream 3, Roman, them actually finding his body, you don't really run into people who have already been killed in the Scream franchise. The majority, like 99% of the victims in this franchise, you already see them dead. Or you don't already see them dead. You see them get killed on screen, and then maybe their bodies will pop up in the last reel somewhere. I don't know. Scream 4, it's the weakest in the series, but it's still entertaining. You know, it's entertaining as hell. But I was just like, I'm not really as attached to these characters. I love the character of Rory Culkin. Hayden Panettiere is one of the best characters and casting choices in the entire franchise. I love Kirby. I love that they brought her back in Scream 6. I say all that to say, man, I enjoy these movies. I love these movies. And when these movies are in development, I'm always on go. Like, I'm always on deck to see who's being casted, who's writing, who's directing. And, you know, after Wes Craven passed away, of course. I'm just always curious to see what this franchise is going to do new. You know, how is this shit going to reinvent itself? Because it manages to reinvent itself every single sequel, in my opinion, man. You know, it's a lot of people that say it should have ended with the first one or part 3 or whatever, or this one's the best, this one's the worst. This series is going to be around for a long time, man, because the truth of the matter is that it's a different character every time. I always say Ghostface doesn't really belong on Mount Rushmore because it's a costume and not a character. But that's one of the clever things about the franchise. Anybody could snap and try to go crazy and go on a killing spree in Woodsboro, in New York, and wherever the hell they set these movies at. It can happen anywhere, and it could be anybody, any of these characters that are on screen. So it's one of the reasons that Scream is going to forever just stand the test of time as one of the greatest slasher franchises ever, man. And it can go on forever if that's the case. And fresh off of Scream 6, man, I was surprised at how great it was without Nev Campbell. Now, I was one of the people where I'm like, okay, Scream 4 is cool. We brought Sidney back, but like, we don't really need her for the next one. I don't know if it was a rumor or not, but I remember years ago, decades ago, on upcoming horrormovies.com, where Nev Campbell, now I don't know if this was a direct quote or misquote, whatever, but don't quote me on the shit. But I remember her saying she only wanted to return to the franchise in a Scream 4 if Sidney was in a mental asylum. Now, while that might not be 100% true, Nev Campbell might not have said that. I remember reading that online, and I was like, I would go for that. Like, if Sidney just went so fucking crazy and just couldn't bear what all the things that happened in the 3 movies, that she just one day snapped and ended up committed, I'm like, cool, I'll go with that. But they didn't. They went in a completely different direction. And the fact that she was in Scream 5 a little bit, it didn't make or break the movie for me. It was great to see her, and it was great to see Gail, and the fact that she popped up after Dewey died, when Dewey told her not to come to Woodsboro. You know, she stood firm on the fact that, no, I'm not gonna rest until he's in the ground. I got kids now. That means my kids won't even be safe. And it was cool seeing Sidney back again. But the fact that she wasn't in 6 at all, I appreciated that. I appreciated the fact that here's a series that has built its legacy on the character of Sidney Prescott and the other legacy characters too, but Sidney Prescott as a central character. For them to purposely move on from her character and to not use her as a crutch at all in Scream 6 and the movie still be fire, I said, oh my God, we can actually do this. We can do what the Halloween franchise forgot that they can't do. Or forgot that they can do without Jamie Lee Curtis. We can do what the Saw franchise forgot that they can do without Tobin Bell, or the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise forgot that they can do without Heather Langenkamp. The Alien franchise forgot they can do it without Sigourney Weaver. We don't need the legacy character. We've set these characters, these new characters, and this new story up to where we can move forward and focus on something else. And the fact that Melissa Barrera got fired from Scream 7 for just voicing her opinions on things that didn't have anything to do with Scream or film in general, I thought it was kind of crazy, man. I did a whole episode talking about how I felt, you know, about her firing, and the fact that Jenna Ortega, I knew that was coming next, and the fact that Jenna Ortega was, you know, she wasn't on board for it after Melissa Barrera got fired. Now, who knows? Maybe she was genuinely that busy. Maybe she was standing in solidarity with her fellow, her fellow co-star. I don't know. But we lost the 2 main fucking characters of Scream, man. And the fact that this was going to be the 3rd movie they were in, I think it was a lot of things that was going to come full circle, and we won't ever get to see that shit. So, they finally paid Nev Campbell the money that she wanted to get paid, man. They came crawling to the door. They were like, listen, Nev, we'll write you a blank check. You just pick a number. We'll put it on there. Spyglass, Paramount, Miramax. We'll put whatever number that you want on this check. We need you to come back. We don't have our two main stars anymore. And they paid Nev Campbell the money she thought she should have got paid for Scream 7. And good for her, man. To know your worth is something that's really important in not just the industry, but just in life in general. So I'm not mad that she demanded the money she felt as though she was worth in the series. That's cool. I'm all for that. But to be going back to the whole Sidney thing, now I knew, there were some people online that were wishful thinking like I was, and they were like, why don't we just put the Meeks, Randy's, niece and nephew in the forefront? And I'm like, the Scream franchise is not about to put two fucking black characters. And I'm not saying this is a racial thing of any kind, but you're not really going to put as many asses in seats if you've got Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding as the main characters in a Scream sequel. It's just not going to happen. And this is not to say that I have anything against them. I love that actor and that actress. I love their characters. I love that the two black fucking characters in Scream 5 and 6 survived after being attacked. I love that shit. I don't see them survive in this movie, but that just was not realistic franchise wise and story wise. Now, in an alternate universe, yeah, I would have wanted them two to be in the forefront, but the studio was not going to do that at all. And it was rumors of who was going to come back and be in the forefront, but we know what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted Nev Campbell back as Sidney Prescott. I personally did not, but the fact that we're getting it, I'm still going to be seated, man. I'm still interested in it. I'm 6 movies in. I'm not giving up now. But, I say all that to say this, man. I've wasted like 11 minutes and some change, about to be 12 minutes talking a bunch of shit. Scream 7 is in production, yo. And everybody was excited. Everybody was excited. You got Sidney Prescott back. The majority of the fan base got what the fuck they wanted. And it was just it was a little piece of the puzzle that was missing. Actually, a major piece of the puzzle that was missing. Everybody was wondering about whether Courtney Cox was going to come back as Gale Weathers. She survived, skin of her teeth in that last movie. I'm not going to lie. I was ready to cry. I thought Gale was going to check out in that apartment chase sequence. That shit was fire. But, she had a weak pulse and she survived the last movie. So everybody was like, yo, what if we don't get Gale Weathers in this movie? And I'm like, you gotta have her because she's one of the most underrated final girls of all time. And I think Gale Weathers doesn't get credit that she deserves on screen for surviving these movies and surviving through all her injuries and shit like that. She's tough as nails. It's like Cotton Weary said in Scream 2. He's like, Jesus, Gale, you got more lives than Kat. And she does. Will she survive in this movie? I don't think so. I don't think Gale is going to survive this movie. I think that her and Dewey belong together. And I don't think she's the same without him. Even down to her having a disposable black boyfriend in the last movie who got killed the moment he was introduced. Just a pointless character, man. But we got Courtney Cox attached to the movie. She came back. Now, I remember saying this, man, and shout out my boy Johnny Zuko because I think he said this first on one of the R&Z Live episodes. He was like something along the lines of, don't be surprised if they pick this up after Scream 4. And I almost lost my mind during the stream. I said, if they pick this up after Scream 4, that is fucking desperation and it's stupid. Like, this is a franchise that's got the best continuity since the Saw franchise, or it's the best continuity next to the Saw franchise because this came out first. If y'all take this chance, like Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox coming back, if y'all use this as an opportunity to do a direct sequel to Part 4 and you just toss out 5 and 6, then that's a dumbass decision. It's stupid. And it's just doing that to kiss the ass in the ring of Nev Campbell and Kevin Williamson, who's also directing this movie. That is, let me just say this. That's one thing I do love. I love that gesture. It reminds me, and I know I mention this a lot, but it reminds me of when George A. Romero let Tom Savini direct the Night of the Living Dead remake. I think if Wes Craven was still alive and he didn't want to direct any more of these movies, I think he would have handed the keys over to Kevin Williamson. That was his partner in crime, man. They did a lot of films together and had a lot of success together. That was somebody that Wes Craven trusted to pen a lot of his projects in the 90s and the 2000s, and I think they worked well together for the most part. There's some movies where it was just like Cursed. I think Kevin Williamson wrote Cursed and Wes Craven directed it. That's one of Wes Craven's worst movies, one of Kevin Williamson's weakest scripts overall, but they worked well together overall. So I think that's something Wes Craven would have been proud about, and it's no doubt in my mind that whatever's cooking right now, Wes Craven's not going to disappoint Kevin Williamson is not going to disappoint Wes Craven's legacy. And I think Radio Silence, who directed the last two movies, they're producing it, and they've got the writers coming back from the last two, if I'm not mistaken. But you had Courtney Cox coming back. Okay, so we got Gail, we got Sidney coming back. Dewey is gone. David Arquette, Dewey Riley, God rest his soul. I cried when he died, man. But people were wondering, if we're not getting Jenna Ortega back and we're not getting Melissa Barrera back, are we at least going to get the twins, Chad and Mindy Meeks Martin? So, I remember it was a lot of time that was passing, and we were getting casting news, man. We got Isabel May playing Sidney's daughter. You got McKenna Grace being on board. You got Anna Camp being on board. You got Celeste O'Connor, who I was really interested to see in the lineup, man. Now, I know a lot of people are talking shit about her because she was in Madam Web. That movie wasn't her fault. Performance-wise, not my favorite performance from Celeste O'Connor, but I liked her character a lot in the Ghostbusters movie she was in, and she's been in some other shit prior. But I was like, wow, like I'm rooting for all the black people in the Scream franchise to survive, man. And then you had some other cast members that were on board, man. We just recently got Mark Consuelos. I don't know who the fuck he is. Sam Rechner was cast in here. Asa Jermaine. Is it Jermaine or Jermaine? I don't know. But I remember there was somebody in the comments that saw this Asa casting, and somebody was like, yeah, he's the killer. Like, just look at his face. He's the killer. And I looked at him. I was like, too easy. Too easy to make him the killer. But, we were getting all of these pieces. Everything was falling into place. And then we got news that, everybody was waiting. Oh my God, Patrick Dempsey's in negotiations, man. He's fresh off of the movie Thanksgiving. Spoiler alert, he was the killer in that movie. We thought he was the killer in Scream 3. It was a nice gesture. Man, we're about to get him back for, as Sidney Prescott's husband, because he's mentioned in Scream 5. He's mentioned in Scream 5, man, where Dewey calls Sidney to tell her about the murders, and he's like, how's Mark? His name was Mark Kincaid in Scream 3. And she's like, yeah, he's great. I think I'll keep him. And that was a nice little joke. It's like, they actually, they got together and they had kids together. Cool. And while we're waiting for the casting news of Patrick Dempsey to be announced, we get an announcement saying Joel McHale from, what is that show, Community? Or is it Parks and Recreation? I think it's Community. Whichever one has Donald Glover in it. And the girl from Scream 4, as a matter of fact. But we get news that Joel McHale is playing Mark, Sidney's husband, and everybody was like, wait. What the fuck is going on here, man? What is happening? And there was actually, again, I don't know if this was a rumor or if this is actual factual studies. Supposedly, because he didn't have much to do with the film or anything to do with the film at all, I don't know which it was, Kevin Williamson supposedly does not care for Scream 3. So he's going to scrap any connection to Scream 3 that he possibly can. And I'm going to get to how that doesn't make any goddamn sense in a second. But when I heard about that, I was like, that's pretty fucking petty, because regardless of whether, I think Patrick Lussier punched up the script for Scream 3, regardless of whether you like Scream 3 or not, it is a part of the series. It is part of the continuity. It is a big part of the story when you see the reveal of Ghostface and it's Sidney's fucking brother. Like, it makes it, I'm not gonna say it makes all the sense in the world, but it's you cannot discredit Scream 3, man. I don't care how many people don't like it and this, that, and the other, but we get news that Joel McHale is playing Mark, and I don't know. My main thing with it was this. Maybe us as Scream fans, when Dewey asked Sidney, how's Mark, we automatically assumed that it was Mark Kincaid. That didn't necessarily have to be true. So I do think that if they introduce Joel McHale, or when they introduce Joel McHale as Mark Evans, Sidney's husband, it's definitely a clever way. I can give them credit. It's a clever way of saying, no, y'all just assumed. We didn't say Mark Kincaid. Y'all just assumed that it was Mark from Scream 3. Here's the Mark that we were talking about. This is a franchise that, I'm not going to say it can do whatever it wants, but it's got crafty ways around the writing and around certain things. Makes me even more curious as to how they're going to write out Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega's characters, man. So we got the casting of Joel McHale. It's crazy, but I'll run with it. Did I want to see Patrick Dempsey? Sure. Now, I heard Patrick Dempsey was asking for too much money, and honestly, listen, Thanksgiving was a hit. And he was good in the movie, man. So if he wants to come back and play a much bigger role as a returning character, then that's cool. I'm with it, man. Pay the man his money. But, they decided not to go with that. So I don't know if the rumors were true about, Kevin Williamson not liking Scream 3. I'll get to why I think that wasn't true in a second. But we got Sidney, we got her husband, we got Gail, we got Mason Gooding, we got Jasmine Sable Brown, we got all these new returning characters. Then the news broke. The news broke that Scott Foley has returned to the Scream series and will appear in Scream 7. And I'm like, hold the fuck up. Scott Foley, Roman Bridger from Scream 3, who was the killer, Sidney's brother. I'm like, hold on, man. And it was somebody online. I can't remember who it was, but in the Facebook comments that was like, this is just proving what Scream 3 said, and the killer is always superhuman, and everything is going to reveal something that wasn't really true. And I'm like, just stop. That motherfucker got shot in the head. I mean, he had a bulletproof vest on, and Dewey was just lighting his ass up, and Sidney was like, shoot him in the head. Headshot. You're out the game. You're dead, dog. You're done. My guess is this. Scott Foley's coming back in Skeet Ulrich fashion. Billy Loomis, where Sidney is going to see hallucinations of Roman Bridger. I feel like if you try to bring Roman Bridger back in any kind of way, and Scream 3 is definitely included in this storyline, that makes no fucking sense. Let's not start doing this resurrection of Cap. This ain't the Fast and Furious, man. This ain't Marvel. This ain't fucking Star Wars. Let's not resurrect dead fucking characters. It's the reason why I didn't want a certain character back that I'm about to get into in a second, man. This is the segue into what really drew me to do this episode, man. I just had to vent about some things. But Scott Foley coming back as Roman Bridger, it has to be visions, flashback sequences where they de-age him. I don't know. But there's no fucking way that Scott Foley is coming back as a living, breathing Roman Bridger from Scream 3. I'm just not buying it at all. But this has been some of the craziest casting news that I've heard in a while for a series, man. Like this is probably the craziest casting news that I've heard overall in a Scream movie altogether. I was, when Scream 4 was coming out, I was like, wait, Macaulay Culkin's brother's in here? Oh shit, like that's crazy. With Scream 6, I was like, what? Dermot Mulroney's in here wasn't he in Copycat and got shot when he had donuts in his hand? Like, I don't remember like if he was in that. I know he was in Young Guns, but I was like, wow, I hope they don't make him the new Dewey. Like, please don't make him the new Dewey. That's an interesting casting choice. I don't really like it, but we'll see what happens, and so on and so forth, man. But Scott Foley is back in the fold. This is really what set me off, people, was last night. And this shit might have broke the internet just a bit. So we got all these returning cast members. We got all these new cast members. We got cast members that was fired, cast members that was killed off. We got all types of shit going on with this crazy Scream 7 production, people. This is the topper of the topper. Last night, for anybody that doesn't know, and anybody that knows and was online freaking out just like I was for the right or wrong reasons, y'all know what I'm about to say. But for the uninitiated, I want y'all to buckle the fuck up for this, man, because some of y'all might be happy about this. Some people might be pissed off. Like, I personally did not want this. I did not. I was against this shit. I was very vocal about it on episodes, on streams, on posts, on social media. Like, anybody that asked me how I felt about it, like, or anywhere that I had to chime in where need be, I'm not a fan of it. And it happened, man. Last night it was announced that Matthew fucking Lillard is back in the Scream franchise. Matthew Lillard even posted something on his Instagram page where he's writing on a piece of paper, "My mom and dad are going to be so mad at me." That's it. Nothing else. No caption. And this was after they announced Matthew Lillard is coming back to the Scream franchise. Now, everybody that was theorizing, oh, Stu is the killer in Scream 6, or maybe Stu is the killer in Scream 5. Stu is going to be back. I'm like, this is me, people. My personal opinion, I did not want that. Matthew Lillard's character, Stu, he was amazing in that first movie, man. One of the best Ghostface in the entire franchise, right? But motherfucker, you had a TV dropped on your head. And this is before flat screens. You had a big ass, the TVs with the fat ass on the back of it. You had a big ass TV thrown on your head. That is severe head trauma and electrocution at the same fucking time. There's no way he's surviving. Now, granted, there was a draft of Scream 3 where they were going to bring Stu Macher back as a killer who was kind of orchestrating this new murder spree in Scream 3. He was kind of like the puppeteer. He was going to have a cult of Ghostface members, younger characters, just doing whatever he said. He was going to be leading the pack of these Ghostface members, man. And I think it was something about the Columbine shooting that made them, kind of toss out that idea and just do an entirely different story, an entirely different draft of Scream 3. Now, if he would have came back in Scream 3, like, I don't know what the plan was and how he survived and shit like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think about. But if you did it in Scream 3, whatever. We had Scream 4, 5, and 6 afterwards, man. But to bring him back in Scream 7, if you bring Matthew Lillard back as a killer, first and foremost, let me just get this out the way before I get sidetracked. I really don't want to make this a long episode, people. Let me say this. I don't they would not announce Matthew Lillard coming back if he was the killer in any shape, form, or fashion. That's just not going to happen. So everybody that thinks he's the killer, I do not think that is the thing. Get that shit out your head right now. I think if Matthew Lillard was one of the killers or the killer in Scream 7, they would have saved that as a surprise. There wouldn't have been any marketing that would have even hinted at Matthew Lillard's character coming back. And I think because they announced it and because the news is so big and because Matthew Lillard announced it, I think it's going to be the same thing that they did with Billy Loomis. Same thing I think they're going to do with Scott Foley's character from Scream 3. I think Stu Macher is coming back in this franchise as a ghostly vision or a flashback sequence or just a hallucination. Maybe Sidney is super fucked up in the head. I think that, like, don't be surprised if we get news. Okay. We got Scott Foley coming back. We got Matthew Lillard coming back. That's a killer from Scream 1 and Scream 3. Don't be surprised if we get, Laurie Metcalf has signed on for Scream 7. Or, Timothy Olyphant signed on for Scream 7. Those are the two killers in Scream 2. Or, Skeet Ulrich is signed on to come back. He was obviously Stu's partner in Scream 1. Or, Rory Culkin and Emma Roberts are coming back for Scream 7. Or, shit, who are the killers? And, Richie and Amber from... If we get any of the returning Ghostface killers that are coming back for Scream 7, we know what this is. Sidney's probably going to have visions of all the people that have tried to kill her. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for the last group of killers, the Richie's family to come back because they didn't know Sidney. It wasn't a vendetta against her. But because Sidney had interactions with Richie and Amber, they could possibly bring them back. But I think that Sidney is going to have hallucinations of everybody that's tried to kill her in the past, and it's going to fuck her mind up. We might be going Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 territory here, and I say that in the sense where we might get a version of Sidney that we've never seen before on screen that's just super psychologically fucked up. Now, the rumor is that Sidney's daughter is going to be in the forefront, and it's going to be her and her high school friends that are targeted by Ghostface. So I guess Sidney has to get involved at some point in time. But this fucking casting news is insane, man. Like, I think the Matthew Lillard casting literally... It was literally the biggest news we've gotten. This is bigger than Neve Campbell coming back for her own fucking movie she's headlining, yo. I think this is insane. And the reactions to people online, on Facebook, on social media, on TikTok, like everywhere, the reactions to people on social media are so scattered, man. I think it's hilarious that some people hate this idea. Some people are calling this idea desperate. Some people love it. Everybody's theorizing at this point. But I feel like in my loins, like in my bones, I feel strongly about the fact that Matthew Lillard is not coming back to play Ghostface in this movie. There's no way they would make that big of an announcement if he was coming back. But then again, they did spoil, like, movies spoil shit all the time, man. Like, they spoil things that people should go into the film blindly about, and it should just be a surprise altogether. Marvel does it all the time. There are little moments, especially for the people that break down trailers like me, and especially for the people that have YouTube channels where they do those frame by frames, and they do those circlings of the pictures and the images, and they zoom in and they theorize all with that. For people like that, and for people like us, like y'all get what I'm saying, man. For all of us out there that theorize, I think, rest assured, we can say that Stu will be back in not real life fashion. There's no way. And honestly, if they do bring him back and say Stu survived, then that's ridiculous, man. It was another rumor that was going to be Wes Craven's Freddy Krueger reference when Stu's face was all burnt up and fucked up and cut up. And it's like, all right, man, in 2000 when Scream 3 came out, whatever, man, like I probably would have been more accepting of it, because it's like, okay, Scream 2 already came and went, and now we're bringing them back for Scream 3, so it could be like a wraparound full circle moment in the trilogy. Cool, but the fact that we're 7 movies in about to be, it's just ridiculous if you bring him back as the killer. I don't think they're going to do that. I am nonetheless, regardless of my criticisms and my theories and my likes and dislikes and all of that shit, regardless, I'm here for it. I don't think that Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt are going to write a bad Scream 7 script. I think they know what's at stake. I think Kevin Williamson jumping in the driver's seat, as great of a gesture as it is, I think he knows the pressure that's on him right now. But I feel like he worked so closely, not even underneath, but next to Wes Craven. He knows the ins and outs of this franchise. It's one of the reasons why he was overseeing the projects as a producer when he wasn't on board anymore. You know, Scream 5 and 6, he was overseeing those projects. And he voiced his opinions about how, Nev Campbell wasn't paid her money and things like that. He's vocal about it, and he should be. He's as much a part of this franchise as anybody else. He penned the first Scream movie. It wouldn't have worked without him. 2, 3, 4, they would not have worked without them, flaws and all. But I think Kevin Williamson knows what's up. He knows what's at stake here. He does. The last thing he wants to do is tarnish Wes Craven's legacy. And I think that this can kind of fall in line with a lot of shit that happened in Scream 3. Scream 3 was actually the first movie that introduced ghostly images, because Sidney was seeing images of her mother that weren't even real, man. She was hearing voices. She was seeing visions of her mother outside her window and things like that when she was like smearing blood on the window. Sidney was fucked up in the head in that movie. So maybe he does have some type of love for Scream 3, and maybe he's bringing some of those elements back from that movie, man. It's really hard to say, people. What did Tatum say in the first one when she's talking to Sidney? You can't prove a rumor, that's why it's a rumor. I think that falls into place here. But it's no doubt in my mind that they're taking some really creative risks here. And I'm cool with that. But in the back of my mind, like, the main thing I'm thinking, it's never going to you're never going to get better than the original, man. I mean, it's possible, but it's a hard act to follow. But will you be better than Scream 3 or 6? And I know I'm losing a lot of people out there because they hate both of those films that I just mentioned. But for me, as a Scream fan, as a diehard franchise fan, those are the best sequels in the series for me. I go back and forth with as far as which one is better. But I usually sometimes I lean towards Scream 3 because it's got Dewey, Sidney, and Gale in there in the forefront. And yeah, I can have a movie without them. And Scream 6 was great without Sidney and Dewey. You definitely miss Dewey in that movie. They make mentions of him, but Scream 6 was just so fucking brutal and dark and intense, man. That's one of the reasons it's in the running for best sequel. Now, you can make a sequel better than those, but will it be? Will it be? Because if it ain't, at least be better than 2 and 4 and 5. Like, if you ain't better than 3 and 6, then they'll still sit on the throne fighting for a top spot. But I don't think you're going to get better than the first one. But I have all the faith in the world. With everything that I said, I say all that to say this. I can voice concerns, and I can have questions, and I can raise my eyebrows, and I can be confused, and I can be like, don't do this. I hope they don't do this because this is going to be dumb, and da da da. I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to be there, man. I'm a diehard fan of this franchise. I'm hoping that they know what they're doing. I really do. And I'm hoping that whatever they do, it's like, you have a lot of, even with Nev Campbell mainly on board, but Courtney Cox and the other returning cast members. But the fact that Nev Campbell's back in the forefront, y'all better have a movie and a story that's fucking with what they were doing with the Carpenter sisters, man, because we were on the right track. We were on the track to getting a brand new trilogy that was fire. You know what I'm saying? And I hope that this script is airtight. I hope that they don't say, oh, well, this is a sequel to part 4. Oh, this is, we're not counting Scream. Like, please don't do that. You can't discredit Scream 3 because Roman's in here. So I hope that every movie is mentioned. And I just hope it's a good Scream movie, man. It's nothing worse than a bad Scream movie. And honestly, I think that this franchise has had home runs. I got issues with Scream 2, and I got a lot of issues with Scream 4, but for the most part, this franchise has not missed yet. They have not had a flop in the series for me. These movies are entertaining as shit. Not necessarily scary, but they're entertaining. The writing is really entertaining, man. The characters are cool. And I think I said something else. Before I wrap this up, I said something else on Facebook a couple days ago, and I was saying that this is, as far as all the Scream movies, this is probably this is the cast that I'm least excited about. And it's not to say that they're bad actors or actresses. We'll see how that pans out, man. But I just feel like I guess I'm a little spoiled as far as casting in a Scream franchise goes, and I know we can't get top notch A-list superstars. You're not gonna get fucking Gary Oldman and Tom Hardy and Octavia Spencer and Denzel Washington in a fucking Scream movie. It's just not gonna happen. But I don't know. I'm willing to give it a chance because one of the things that I said in my defense was the fact that I wasn't really excited about the casting for Scream 5 as a whole. I was glad Marley Shelton was coming back, but they killed her off, especially when she was in MILF status the way she was in that movie. I don't know. Is it just me? Like, I don't know, man. I've always loved Marley Shelton on screen, but it's neither here nor there. Wasn't really excited about that cast overall, but the characters tend to grow on me even when I don't know the actors or actresses. So I'm going to give this cast the benefit of the doubt in the same way that I've done with all the rest of the Scream movies. And I hope this is great, man. I hope this is great. The casting news has just been absolutely fucking crazy. And honestly, as crazy as it is, that's crazy is the Scream franchise, man. It's absolutely insane. Even when they take steps backwards, it's still crazy. Still one of the greatest slasher franchises ever, man. And in the words of Forrest Gump, my boy, that's all I have to say about that. I feel like I think my intro was long-winded as they tend to be, but I did not plan on this being like a half hour damn near, but I gets passionate about my Scream franchise, people. But y'all already know where to go, man. And if y'all don't, y'all can follow the podcast on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast from. Shout out Spotify for podcasters. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want what if I said it wrong and Spotify was just like, listen, we're taking your shit off our platform because we don't call it Spotify for podcasters anymore. I don't think they would be that petty. I certainly would hope not. But shout out to Spotify for creators. It's for creators, people. I fuck up. Players fuck up from time to time. But follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Romero Tutor. Shout out to the Facebook movie group, The Cinemaniacs. And last but certainly not least, shout out to the Tutor reviewers, the listeners, the lovers, the supporters out there. This one, I was going to save this one for later. But I said no. I said I had to get this out the way. And what I really was going to do, I was going to use the Faculty remake news as a segue into this episode. I thought about doing 2 in 1, but I said no. These deserve separate episodes. But I was going to talk about the Faculty first, just to get myself geared up and hyped up to talk about the Scream shit. But yeah, that's definitely coming next, people, because it's a wild time, man. Somebody said, somebody said in an article that the 90s properties are hot right now. Scream's getting cast in news. The Faculty's getting a remake. Idle Hands is getting a remake. First of all, why why? I'm gonna explain when the episode drops. Y'all will hear my thoughts on that Faculty remake, but I don't think it's what they're saying it is. I really don't. As far as Idle Hands, shouldn't even be a fucking remake of Idle Hands. It came out in 1999, and the movie still holds up. I mean, there's certain moments of not necessarily puppetry, but there's small moments of CG that kind of don't age too well. But for them to blend practical effects and CG effects the way they did, listen, man, if y'all have not seen Idle Hands, it is a stoner comedy. It's a horror comedy. It's a zom-com. It's a lot of things all wrapped up in one beautiful looking movie, man. There's a fucking crazy soundtrack to it. It's a great cast to it. There's ass, blood, and guts everywhere, man. But why are we getting a fucking remake? I love that Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things and Ghostbusters. I love that he's dipping into the horror scene, and I don't know if he's directing it, writing it, producing it, but he's got another summer camp slasher movie coming out. And like for him to just do like the fact that we're doing an Idle Hands remake, I don't think it's necessary. And they asked Devon Sawa, I think he was promoting one of his films, and I think he was promoting Hard Eyes or something like that. And they asked him how he felt about it, and he's, Devon Sawa, bless his heart, man, because he's so humble and he's so modest about everything. But he should have been like, nah, man, it's only one Anton Tobias, and whether his hand is on the loose or not, that movie is cemented. I mean, at least for me, that was one of the best movies to come out that year. And I just don't think it needs a remake, but, whatever. If they were smart, they would do a direct sequel. Do a direct sequel to Idle Hands, man. Have Devon Sawa come back. Have Jessica Alba come back. Have Eldon Henson come back. And have, who else? Seth Green, Vivica Fox. Have all of them, Jack Noseworthy. Have everybody that survived come back. Anton and Molly, I think Jessica Alba's character's name was. Let them have a child. And he, genetically, his hand is possessed too. Like, let's do that. Can we just not do a whole fucking remake? Or I feel like they're going to do that. I'm not even going to say what I feel like. I'm not even going to say it. I really should do an episode about the Idle Hands remake, but I'm gonna hold out on that because we have little to no news at all about that. And it's the same thing with the Faculty remake, but I feel like I'm a little more passionate about what I think they're going to do, or what I think they should do with that film. But we'll see when we get there, people. But y'all already know the love and support y'all show me, I show it back to y'all tenfold and then some. So with that being said, people, yours truly, Romero Tudor, another episode of Tudor Reviews in the can. I'll check y'all on the next one.